On this episode of Made in America, we are taking a totally different tack. We're talking manufacturing, but from a people perspective, how investing in people is the critical piece to manufacturing success. I'm with Ray Coombs, president of Westminster Tool. You're not going to want to go anywhere to find out what they make and why they make it. Welcome to the Made in America podcast. I'm Ari Santiago. I'm here today with Ray Coombs, president of Westminster Tool. Known Ray for a bit of a time. We do EMA together, work together on some other projects, Senator Murphy's Manufacturing Advisory Council. Ray is a dynamic guy, runs a great business. Super excited to hear what he has to say on today's podcast. Ray, thank you so much for coming on today.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Listen, Made in America podcast, so same questions. What do you make and why do you make it?
All right. We grow people, and oh, by the way, we make shit.
Okay.
Right?
That's right.
So if you get into the what, we're a manufacturer. We make things. Our value proposition is identify your challenge, the unique is solution, right? So everything in manufacturing has a challenge, has a solution, and that's what we provide. Just so happens what happens in between it, kind of like machinery and equipment and so forth. We serve two predominant markets, the aerospace market, high-performance plastics and materials, and then the medical device manufacturing sector. Between those two areas, it's about 90% of our business.
Okay. So before we get into the people part, because that's a huge part of what I want to talk about today, Westminster Academy and what you guys have been able to do there.
Sure.
But before we get into that, let's get into a little bit of the origin story. So what is the origin of Westminster Tool? How did it get started, and how'd you get there?
That's great. Well, like yourself, we went into business for a lot of reasons. One of them is not that we worked well for others, right? So the first reason why you go into business is because you have all the answers. You're the smartest guy in the room. Just ask me, right? We have a better way, we have a bigger way, and we have big dreams, and we don't have the patience to let somebody else happen for us. So I started in my basement 20 years ago now. We just had our anniversary party. And kind of living on a dream and a prayer, and making widgets, brackets with a Bridgeport type thing. From there, we evolved. We started to gain a little bit more traction. What's kind of funny is 20 years ago, I was getting into manufacturing, and I really thought I was running into a burning building because everybody was getting out. I'm like, hey, where are all you guys going?
why is everybody getting out of this?
I'm all excited. Gig? I'm an excitable guy, and I'm like, I started a business. Like, you're out of your mind. But believing in doing the right thing for the right reasons, and I figured, hey, what's the worst thing that can happen? I can go get a job, right?
That's right.
20 years later, we're 46 people strong. We're making a difference in all of our lives. We're all getting better every single day, and we're saving lives. And on the other side of the business, I guess we're kind of ending lives. So it's kind of ironic.
Ironic, right? Getting it on both ends of the spectrum there.
Right.
That's good. So, how did you get into manufacturing? I mean, you decided, hey, I'm just going to buy a Bridgeport machine, put it in my basement, and see what I can make?
Great question. All right. So here's the early story, right?
Okay.
I was definitely the middle child that probably listened to nothing in my 50 years of living, right? And I was going to college. I had graduated from a small school in New England called Harvard. Have you ever heard of it? Harvard.
Yes, Harvard.
Harvard H. Ellis Regional Vocational Technical School.
Oh, yeah, yes. I have heard of that one too.
Yeah. And so I graduated from Harvard. And from Harvard, I went on to college. I'm going to be an engineer. I had a big influence from my father to get into the engineering field. And I was always fascinated. I grew up on a farm, so making things was just cool. That was always, I didn't know it then, but I'm a very kinesthetic guy. So I took a part-time job while I was going to college, and I fell in love with what I was doing. And it took me 3 months to come home, get up the courage to tell my father I had found my love.
Really?
I had found my love.
What was the part-time job?
It was at a company called Ivanhoe, and up in Thompson, Connecticut. And when I had told my father I had found my love, he said, "Oh my God, son, that's great. When do I get to meet
her?"
Right? And I said, "No." I said, "Dad, I found what I want to do with my life, And he says, "Oh, that's great." He said, "Well, come on, let's hear it." I said, "I'm dropping out of college. I'm going to be a machinist." And he said, son, I love you, and I'm so proud of you. Now get the F out of my house. You're out of your mind. So when you say do what do what you love what you do, I've been very blessed that God gave that to me at an early age, that I found what my passion was. Which is basically manufacturing of all. Now, how that's evolved into the people business, is a much longer story.
Yeah, which I definitely want to get into. So you're working at Ivanhoe, and then what? I mean, what point do you decide, hey man, I can do this bigger, better, stronger? Well, for you, that might have been day one.
So I had a couple of that's right. I got to talk about my real jobs.
Yes.
So I worked from Ivanhoe, and I got a little bit bored. One thing about my life. That's a consistency. As soon as you stop learning, you start dying, and I don't want to die anytime soon. So I got a little bit bored, and so I went to a smaller company, which was what I call a little bit of a Vietnam experience. But I learned at that small company to do many, many different things. You were not pigeonholed into something. The challenge then became that I was getting married to my wonderful, beautiful, awesome, outstanding wife, who I love
very,
dearly.
very much. Yes.
Yeah.
You forgot smart, quick, supportive, interesting.
Thank you. You've met her.
Yep.
Right.
I have.
How am I doing?
You're doing great. Yeah, you're doing fantastic.
But we had to start a family. We had to start worrying a little bit more about the dollar. And so I took a job out here at a company called Advanced Mold. And I was working for Advanced Mold for about 6 years. Loved the job, and I was moving around. I was promoted really quickly. But I wanted to be the best father I could be, and driving an hour and 10 minutes each way to work was not it was not crimping my style on the fatherhood side.
I would imagine so.
So that's, believe it or not, that was when I had said, to heck with it, let's give this thing a shot. So
that was the beginning. It was, hey, you know what? I want to be able to be with my family, but I want to provide at the same time. I might be able to just do this for myself.
Yeah, and I want to fulfill. I want to be challenged. Having that control, as you know exactly what I'm talking about. To be challenged, as much as we complain about it, we love them.
Absolutely. And so, how did it get from the basement to not the basement, right? Because now we're looking at Westminster Tool, which not only has the facility that you have two facilities, right? Yeah, so how did you get from where you were in the basement there to where we are today?
So from the basement, that's a funny story. We got a little bit of a cease and desist. We live in a small town in Connecticut. In Connecticut, we like to really control our neighbors a little bit. And so I had a couple bridge points in my basement, and somebody found out about it. And you'd think they were going to burn a cross on my front lawn or something. I mean, they were really upset about it. So I had to move out a little bit prematurely because I was trying to build some cash. Because I had no funding. I borrowed $550 off my father to start this thing. So we were cash strapped. So from there we found a chicken coop in Plainfield. That we renovated and kind of began to get into this real world of business. Right. And what was kind of funny, my daughter Hannah at the time went to school. We had moved the shop, and I had worked in the basement for about a year and a half, and she's crying, and and she's really upset. And the teacher calls, "Hey, is everything okay with you and Ray?" And Kim's like, "Yeah, why? What's going on?" Well, Hannah has been crying that her father doesn't live with her anymore, that he's going to live someplace else and come home to visit at night, because she just thought her father worked where he lived, right? And they were thinking that my wife and I split up or something like that.
That's funny. That's funny.
My daddy's going to live someplace else, but he's going to visit at night.
That's so funny. So is that place in Plainfield the place that I know? That's the same place that's expanded now? That was the original move out of the basement to where you guys are today in Plainfield? No, from the chicken coop, we then bought the first facility in Plainfield, and we renovated. It was 12,000 square feet. We renovated that, moved in. And from a growth standpoint, we grew very quickly. And then I've been through two really bad downturns in manufacturing, and both times, we weathered it pretty well. But both times, it helped me to change. Those challenges in your life are opportunities to truly
garner the courage that you didn't have when things were going great to make changes that are necessary. So,
absolutely.
That's what happened out of the chicken coop. The chicken coop was about 5,000 square feet.
Okay. So actually, I want to pull on that downturns a little bit and talk about that, because I think that's really interesting for people to hear about that. We've been going through, despite what people say, it's been a pretty consistent, maybe not as fast as we would have liked, but a very consistent march forward for almost 10 years now. And so, listen, business cycles being what they are, whether it's coming now, next year, or whatever, at some point, right, the other shoe's going to drop and we're going to take a step back. I think people might be able to learn from some of those experiences. So talk about the first downturn and kind of the changes that you made to weather through, what you learned to make it better, and what you did the second one that you learned from there.
All right. So the first one, I wasn't smart enough to see any of it coming. I was just, you're just trying to survive, and you're working your tail off, and your world is much smaller, right? So the first one, I learned a lot from the first one. I had a nervous breakdown.
Okay.
Right?
Well, that's okay. There you go. Have we recovered from that yet, Ray?
So no, not really. There was a little bit of an impact there as far as my bank called my credit line. They were getting out of because during that downturn, 2001, 2002, the downturn, some banks just decided they're going to call lines. Well, so it's $100,000, right? And I'm like, well, where am I going to get $100,000? I mean, I got all of it except for 99 grand.
Right.
So I started going to other banks, and they were all like, "You're funny." Finally, I had one bank, New Alliance. Actually, back then it was a bank. They've been bought out 20 times since, but they took a chance on me. And what I learned at that time was things like debt service. A little word like debt service, cost of goods sold, and some of the finance part of a business that I did not know previously. So from that, I probably became way more conservative.
Well, it sounds like also educated on some business stuff, right? I mean, think many of us are speaking from my own experience. When you get started, like you don't get started thinking about profit and loss and income statements and balance sheets and debt service, to your point, and interest rates. Like we get started because we know how to do something, or think we know how to do something to deliver value to a customer. And we're focused on finding those customers, delivering that value, hopefully getting paid, and then finding more customers and delivering more value. And so it's interesting, I think, that it sometimes does take a shock or a thing sideways to make us learn about business, right? Yep. When you get in there. So that's interesting you picked that up.
I'm a similar profile to you. And so I'm all about the hunt. And during the hunt, sometimes I'll forget my way home, right? Or I'll forget where I was even hunting for, because while I was hunting for that, I get distracted with it.
Ooh, shiny object.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure. When it comes to actually trying to build a business during the second downturn, that's where I learned
2008, 2009. We're talking,
right? Yeah. What I learned from that was that you got to have a differentiator, and if you don't have a plan, you can have a dream, but without a plan, it's called a fantasy. And that's what really opened my eyes the second time. There's another massive turning point in my life about setting priorities. Our similar profiles, we tend to leave a wake sometimes because we're so focused and so driven, and we just expect everybody to just know what we're thinking or whatever, right? But it's an interesting story, and I got to tell it. I know you haven't heard it. Can I break off?
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is an impact. So this is what we call an electric fence moment.
Okay.
When you touch an electric fence, you never forget that. Right?
I would imagine that's true. I haven't actually touched an actual electric fence.
Well, then you're not listening.
Okay.
You just plain have to touch it. Okay. Right? And you can't touch it, you got to grab onto it.
All right.
You will never forget that experience for the rest of your life, and you'll drive by an electric fence and you'll be, whoa. So I had an electric fence moment, which is a life-changing moment in my business. And this is the biggest impact on my company that ever happened, never mind a downturn. And it had to do with a friend of mine. So I was 36 at the time. So that was about a year ago. I was 36 at the time. My childhood best friend, his kids were the same age as me. We were in my basement. We were in the chicken coop at the time, and having a beer. And, me, I'm a little excitable, right?
Yep.
And so I'm telling him my dreams. I show him my mirror. My mirror has all my goals, and I've always hit my goals before I put my deadline, right? And he's okay, he's like, oh, that's great, Ray, and he's smiling, he's nodding, and I'm just bleeding all over him, me, I, me, right? And at the end of the conversation, he tapped me on the shoulder. He says, "Ray, you're going to think I'm blank effing loser."
Right.
And I'm like, "Why, Tom?" And he says, "I just want to be a good dad. I want to be the best dad and father I can be." And I went, "Ooh, that's a good one." And so at that time, now it didn't sink in then. It didn't sink in. I just said, okay, underachiever friend, that's okay. Their kids are great. We had some good times.
Sure.
But, 2 weeks later, he was dead, right? And the most important thing in his life, right, which should be in every father's life, was right there in front of me, and I was distracted by me rather than that. And it was taken away from him at that time. And it completely changed the way I looked at life in general. And so my business became second or third. And that's why we have any success that we have, is because I was woken up. And I know it sounds like a tragedy. I don't want to make it.
No, it's fine.
But when it comes to getting your priorities straight, and I think that's the most important part of business, as a father and as a business owner, you're constantly challenged with balance. Yeah. We're trying to balance everything and make everybody happy. And then we have our own fulfillment and so forth. So that literally changed my business life.
So talk about that. How did something not directly business related and not even something that you saw and witnessed and I'm sure had an impact on you, how did that change your philosophy in business?
That it's not just about you and your success, and that what does it being a good father look like, right? You can only measure that, and you can measure that with your mirror. I can't measure that for you. Yeah, you know what I mean. And God knows we figure that one out. We're going to make a lot more money than a podcast, right? So there is a lot of things that I took away from it, as far as just thinking that you have to see a bigger picture. You have to slow down, get your priorities straight in your life, and then the other things will fall in place a little bit easier. So our business did not grow a whole ton that next 4 to 5 years. However, I was about my children and my family. And through that, me slowing down a little bit and getting one of my business partners from the Midwest calls it a distraction. I'm like, how do you call kids a distraction? I'm like, that is true, but I've never thought of, right. Nobody's ever called them that. But by having my priorities focused more on my family and doing the right thing for the right reasons, it opened my eyes to many different aspects of doing business that have been impactful and profitable for us.
Absolutely. And I think when it comes down to it, right, businesses, and you talked about it initially kind of in the intro, that there's things that we make or deliver, whether it's a service or a product in business or a combination thereof, but it's all done through people.
Yeah.
And we need to be focused on what we can do on developing and growing those people if we want the business to grow. So I want to talk about that. But before I do, real quick, what do you think has helped you to grow the business itself? Is it that focus on the people? Like how have you gone about growing that business and getting it from the basement to the nearly 50 people?
We did it on sheer aggression and technical knowledge. Is how we got out of the basement and got into the chicken coop and moved into the new facility. We're building something that's sustainable and great. We are in the opportunity business, and by the way, we make shit.
Right.
That is 100% of our focus. No different than your family, right? And what makes you a good father makes you a good leader. And that's really the sum of it.
It is. So let's kind of turn right into kind of, this recruiting and retention and people part of the business, the huge part of Westminster Tool. I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing there. You've been super gracious about having us in to witness some of the stuff that you do. I've had a chance to talk with you a bunch. Kaylee's been awesome to work with. But for the people on the podcast who don't know everything that I know about what's happening at Westminster, can you talk about, before what we're doing, how about how we got there?
Awesome.
What made you decide to make it about the people? Because I think that's special and unique, and so many people admire it. Companies large and small of all ilk admire what you guys are doing. So what made you do it?
So, first of all, everybody knows what they have to do in business. It's just whether or not they have the courage or the energy to go through to do it. I learned that a long time ago. Everybody knows what they have to do, but they're hoping that, okay, I'm going to send somebody to Westminster and they're going to feel it, and that's going to change them for me. So I just want to say, and then out of necessity, there's nothing wrong with necessity. I realized during that transition, it's going back 7 years ago now, that I was just another guy. I was just another manufacturer with a big ass ego in a room. I've always been about making a difference, and I've always been that part of it. But at that time, I thought that you stroke a check and you're making a difference, right? That I get a lot of things wrong. But what happened was we decided that we had to create a differentiator, and I was focused so much on the what as a differentiator in the marketplace that I lost sight of it. So I took 2 years and I traveled. So I traveled all over the world, actually, doing research on what would Westminster of tomorrow look like. And when through that process, I looked at the German model, which the German model I took away as the community, embracing your community, education, academia, right? And you never stop learning the German model, right? No, they don't return a phone call, but they will. They do focus on, when it comes to customer service, it's a little bit more Heisman.
Right.
So I was turned off by that. But if you look at the actual core substance, and that is skills and knowledge, one of the best in the world.
Absolutely.
One of the best in the world.
And by the way, just before we get off it, I think the embracing of the community, I mean, to me, is super important as well.
Yeah, because that's your impact. When I get into some of the business case or the result, right? Then we could talk about that. But so what I was looking for is hey, what is Westminster? How are we going to differentiate it? And so I went to China, Japan, Germany. I researched my profession of molds and tooling, and then in the U.S. And I just plain became a little bit of a student of the game, and I learned a ton during that I wasn't very good. When I thought we were the best in the room, and by getting out of that room and going to another room, boy, it really opened my eyes how we were not very good. Right. We could be a lot better. But what I did was that 2-year kind of journey, as you would say, I was gathering data. Now, at the end of that 2-year journey, because of EMA, I've been exposed to people like yourself that are way more successful and smarter than I am, right? With that comes a distinct advantage of getting some information from people that are doing it, right? I got turned on to a coach called Carmen Brickner, a friend of mine that used her as a corporate coach. And that's when I really started getting into identifying what are we going to look like. And so what was that? So you did the research, we went international, Japan, China, Germany, powerhouses in manufacturing, United States, powerhouse in manufacturing, try and learn what to do. And you came back, and what's going to be Westminster's differentiator once you go through that? What was the answer? I'm a genius. I got all the answer. We're going to learn, right? Because that works for Germany, right? And we're going to improve. That works for Japan, right? And we're going to be real arrogant. That's America. So, no. And we're going to tell everybody about it, which is America, right? And Germany, we also took away the community piece to align yourself with the academia. So I started a training program, and I started an improvement program. Nothing. I spent $150,000 on training in my company, and my key performance indicators didn't blip. And I'm like, I'm almost like shaking the snow globe. There's got to be something wrong with it. Hey, what's going on here? I had the answer. Right. What I didn't have was the emotional intelligence piece. And now I didn't know it at the time, right? So this is when, fast forward to this coach / facilitator / probably psychologist. And she says to me, let's take a 1-day session and let's paint euphoria perfect.
Paint what?
Euphoria. Perfect, right? What is it? What is it? The community that is. It's not Epcot, but they're going to build the perfect world, right? Okay, yep. So it was an 8-hour session. It was exhausting, and you know me, I'm a big whiteboard guy. Yep. So we whiteboard. I mean, all over the freaking place. We rented a room down. Not you know what I mean. I rented a room. Yeah, got I know. Classroom. I don't want because you're winking at me. But we whiteboard all the things that I would painted perfect. And what I realized at that time from that was the true advantage in the world. Every place, over 250 companies I visited, every single company, their number one challenge is people. Getting people, retaining people, training people, the right
Rowing people, having people rowing in the right direction, happy people. Yeah.
correct. And everybody has so I'm like, well, maybe we could be good at that. Maybe we could beat them at that. Let's. What I realized was all the companies I visited had better equipment, better infrastructure, hell of a lot better presidents, right?
Better transition, more money in the bank, more access to capital.
All of it, right?
Yep, sure.
What can I, right? So in order to be them, I got to do all that, right?
Right.
But what about this other thing? So that session, we created whiteboards like crazy, and then we started putting them in buckets. And I had technology, I had robotics, right? But when we listed them all, what if you had a company where everybody worked together and everybody took responsibility for not improving their quality of life, but everybody else, people around them, quality of life? What if you had everybody who was as passionate about the internal customer as the external customer? What if you had a company that was passionate about learning and understood the value that they could increase their quality of life? What if you had a company that just plain appreciated you for who you are rather than trying to make you me?
Yep.
Right? What if? And that's what the game that we called it. We called it What If. I'll be a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
When we got it into buckets, 90% of it was human based.
Yeah.
And so we go, well, there you go.
That's it.
That's it. We'll tackle this one. How hard can it be?
I think they call that moving the battlefield, right?
Right.
You can't win over here, can't win over there. Little Sun Tzu Art of War, move the battlefield, right? Move it to a position where you can win.
You can win.
That's right.
And so she said, all right, we got a place to start. And now I had a clear understanding of what I wanted to do. How are we going to differentiate? What if you had a company that had a waiting list in manufacturing to get in? What if you had a company that you had people that were taking part in your public community nonprofit activities before they came and worked for you as a qualifier? What if you had people that never wanted to end their education? You know what I mean? It was all of these what ifs. And so now that taught me about setting a vision, a little bit of a dream. And then we started chipping away at it. So we created the Westminster Direction about 2 years after I had all the answers. And the first thing we started with was DISC and learning styles. And there again, no blip in the KPIs until I stumbled onto emotional intelligence. And she knew this the whole time. She knew,
wanted you to go down the path and learn it for yourself.
She knew that I don't need a helmet. You know what I mean? I got the thickest skull you can think of. So she knew that I had to be the one to realize it. So when I got that aha of what emotional intelligence does to affect your sweet spot in your life and people around you, and we started training on the emotional intelligence.
Let's talk about that a little bit, right? So DISC, right, which is a business profiling that talks about business behavior and wiring, and you've referenced that assessment, right? So DISC, and we're not going to go too much into that, but that talks about kind of behavior, right? How we behave and how we behave at work in particular.
Yeah.
So what is emotional intelligence? To people that don't know, maybe that are listening to the podcast, what is it? How would you define it? How would you?
So the ground floor beginning of it is just don't be a jerk.
Yep.
Right. Don't. All right. That's the start of it.
Right.
Let's before we go jump. You're a D. You jump to conclusions. You fill in all of the blanks. You're doing it right now. You can't help it. We cannot. We are human beings. Right. So there's not a.
Struggling for a tidy definition of I
am.
Yeah. Well, I think you started with it, right? So I mean, and listen, this is your bag, so I don't want to go if I'm wrong here, but right, is a little bit of it to me, or at least how I've kind of walked away from our conversations about it, is that emotional intelligence is understanding and caring what the other person believes or thinks about, and then acting on that, right? So is that am I in the ballpark? No, you're making faces, Bray. That's not good. I'm not there.
You suck.
All right. Well, I tried.
I'm only kidding. No. All right. If you don't show, if you don't have a passion to improve, understand yourself, you can't improve yourself if you don't understand yourself. So the first thing it does, most emotional intelligence, is it starts with a mirror. Before you go to a window, you must become proficient at a mirror. And that's hard.
Yeah.
That is really hard. And so the foundation of emotional intelligence is let me get a little bit passionate about trying to understand myself a little bit. So understanding DISC, that's the way I am, right? This is how I operate. Oh, okay. And then emotional intelligence, it keeps you in your, everybody has that profile, DISC, right? It keeps you in your sweet spot. Now, under pressure, you go to your backup, and it's usually under low emotional intelligence, and then you get very direct, and you don't care what you're saying. You are going to put it out there, right? And you're looking at it, right? You've probably witnessed it in one form or another.
Sure.
So that was the first hurdle, was getting people to understand that don't worry about Ari. Worry about you first, right? And then what qualifies you to then become empathy or empathetic, or start beginning to look outward is that the more I seek to understand myself, the more I'm going to afterwards, once now I got an understanding. And so what you've just done to me is maybe give me a little bit of reaction, right? Maybe I have an emotion that's building up for something that I filled in my head. I'm going to pause for a second. And then I'm going to think about, well, I wonder why that behavior came out that way. I wonder why those words came from. And that can be a very complicated. What that just did was it distracted me away from judging you. Right. And
turns judgment into curiosity.
Correct. You cannot learn if you've judged or you have the answer.
Right.
I mean, I'm not
can only learn from a place of curiosity, right?
Yes. So it keeps you in that mode of curiosity and embracing. So this is where DISC comes in. So you use DISC for yourself first, but then you also use it as it's a tool within emotional intelligence to try to seek to understand others. And why is it that person? Because right away I'm saying he's a jerk. Right. Well, he's not like me. Right. Right. I'm perfect. Right. And that's what you can't help it. It's human behavior. So. Emotional intelligence. So when we started teaching and training emotional intelligence, the other great thing about emotional intelligence is you can affect it. Yeah. You can get better at it every day. And this is where the search inside yourself comes in, is to finding conditions for a guy like me who's 90% emotion, passion, and 10% brains. I have to control that passion. As you're already seeing it, I'm trying to control it now, because it's a hot spot for me. But getting you to so that you can better serve your customer. Your customer is your family and everybody that interacts with you in life.
So how have you taken the DISC and the emotional intelligence? So you make the decision, hey, we're going to move the battlefield to be what really is so important, right? Which is the people in the organization. We're going to be the best at growing, developing, and having the best people, right, that work well together. How are you actuating that? What are some of the actual steps you're putting in place to take that dream, make that plan, and put it into reality?
So the first thing is the vision, your mission, your core values. You have to hire on core values. You have to fire on core values. There can be no exceptions within your organization. We turned over 50% of our workforce. We lost, probably over $500,000 before we turned the corner on this thing, right? But there again, when you're clear and concise of what you're going to war for, it's a little easier to fight. But if you're questioning what you're going to war for, I don't know how much, if you're going to battle,
you're going to battle this type. And yeah, right. So, but let's that for 1 second. So you didn't have core values for Westminster before you went down this process. And then how did you develop them or discover them?
That's kind of funny. That's another funny story. I said, I'll give you core values.
Pizza, beer, whiskey, and cigars.
Right.
Fast cars, maybe too.
What don't you understand? That's right. I never understood that because I made exceptions. And when I stopped making exceptions in my organization and realizing so the first year and a half, I did everything I could because I took it very serious that it was my fault. Yep. That the job of a leader is to get everybody to understand why they're leaving their family and they're going to war, right? If you're ineffective at that, how it's going to benefit that other person. You don't just fire somebody because he doesn't know it. Right. You have to fire somebody because he doesn't see the value in it. Right. And so we started with those core values that support the culture. So the culture is a result. Yeah. It is not dictated. It's not driven, and it's not on a poster board, right? So it's a combination of your vision, your mission, your core values, and your environment. The environment is provided by the organization or the company or whatever you want to call it, right? The rest of them are attributes that you can. So when you set that dream per se, from there you can start to say, okay, what core values would align with that? So our core values are dynamic. Right, you have to understand change. Right, curiosity. You have to learn. Right, and when you look at our culture, you knowing it, you can see how these things. You got to be motivated. Right, you have to want more in life than just being average and ordinary. There's a lot of there's been debate over the definition, so we actually put a Westminster definition on them all. But once I became true to that, we started to turn the corner and see.
And you found that once you defined it right now, so you're not defining it in the basement before you start. You're defining this now. You're already grown, so you've got people, and you alluded to it before that, and it's something I've talked about and believe in passionately. That solid core values. We know. I think as business owners and leaders, they're working if they're attracting and if they're repelling. So once you put them into place, it's likely that if you haven't had them before, you're going to repel some people that are already in the organization. That's not easy. So how did you find the courage, and what steps did you take to execute that? You know, these people, did they leave? They self-select out? Did you educate them on the new way? You know, did they leave kicking and screaming? You know, what was your experience on that 50% turnover, and how did you able to execute that turnover successfully without blowing up the whole company? And listen, along the way, disappointing customers. You know, how did you get through all that?
We didn't.
You know,
I mean,
you're through it. You did get through it, right? Because you're on the other side of it now. The company's bigger. It's growing. You've got a dynamic young workforce that's motivated. You know, that's following you headlong into this whole process, and when I say following you, willingly beating the drumbeat and excited about their opportunities to kind of work and do different things in the organization. So you have made it to the other side.
That's the environment, core values, right? And everybody understanding the vision. This thing is not me anymore.
Right.
This thing is way bigger than Ray, and that's what I want. I want to build it like I'll be dead before it's done. Right. I want to provide a company that people want to come. Now, they used to want to come work for Ray. Wrong. You want people to come to work for Westminster, right? And how are you going to do that? You got to listen to your customer. What do your customers want? I hear all the time, "Oh, you're hiring all these kids, and they're going to leave." I said, "Okay, are you married?" Right? Do you let your wife go to the grocery store, afraid she's going to meet somebody better than you? I mean, if you're putting into the relationship and you're listening and you're nurturing and you're communicating as to what the needs are, and I'm not saying that we're just giving everything away. You just got to listen to your customer. Everything that we've done and built in the company has come from our customer, which is our people.
Right.
It's all been driven by them. I did not drive this stuff. I'm not smart enough. The Kylies and Jasons and people like that have created a lot of this. I created the vision. I'm not going to lie to you. The vision is 100% mine.
Sure.
But the rest
and the energy and the passion and the support and the wherewithal. Yeah. I mean,
and most importantly, I'm going to get really close on this, the money.
The money. Yeah. Hey, well, it's an investment, but I think it's so interesting, and we see it all the time, kind of in the technology space too, right? Where you talked about before, you whether it's buying a poster and you think that makes culture or whatever, we see that too sometimes with software, right? You just buy software and you install it, and miraculously everyone's going to know how to use it, and very few, I should say, put in the time and the energy to invest in their people. And I think what you've shown, one of the things that's always inspired me, is you took that I don't even know if it's leap of faith, but you took that understanding and said, I'm going to invest in developing an organization that develops people. And you put time, energy, and money behind it, just the same way someone might do when they were developing a new product line, a new machine. And you got to look, if you want to make something different and unique, you got to do something different and unique. And that's what you guys are doing. And now I think it's a lot of people are starting to see the rewards that have come, but it didn't come without a struggle. No. And I think you sell yourself short when you say, that you weren't a huge part of it, because everyone that works there, when I talk to them, will tell me what a huge part of it you were and still are from an inspiration.
Players play, coaches coach.
Right.
Right.
That's
leaders
right.
Lead.
And leaders lead. Right.
And I had out I dropped out of college in order to run machines, and I don't run machines anymore, right? I'm not really flowing any value to my customer.
Right.
I appreciate my customer and so forth, but I try to give the credit where credit's due. The entire company's run from those improvement teams. You know that. They're the ones that are calling the shots with this thing going on to into the future. So,
and let's talk about rubber meeting the road, right? So we've done all this investment. You're investing in the people. You're investing in emotional intelligence and getting that whole thing running. And where does that go in terms of the products that leave Westminster and go to the customer? How is that being impacted through all that you've done?
You'd have to obviously talk to the customers, but we raving fans, right? I'm a big raving fan of the raving fans. I don't know what the heck you call it, but that we are creating raving fans. We were not creating raving fans when it was Ray and the 20 of the smartest guys in the world. Just ask us,
right?
At that time, so we are doing good things for our customer,
which
because
means
I think we're listening a little bit more.
Customer retention is up. Customer orders are up. Profitability is up, right? I mean. I think, look, at the end of the day, how we get to the end result in business is all different. But at the end of the day, the scoreboard, just like the scoreboard in a sport, is the same, right? It's how are we doing on retaining customers? How are we doing at driving customer satisfaction? And how are we doing at generating profits at the end of the day for the business so that we can reinvest in those people to help their dreams come true? And on those, and how is Westminster doing on those key metrics at the end of the day?
We have to measure my customers, right? Which is the people that work there. But fantastic retention rate and a waiting list. I think that speaks for the culture. I think the fact that you have retention. We identify and we specify the quality of life in our vision, that we're here to try to help improve the quality of life of everybody around. And we give it a definition. It's time, money, stress. We want to make more money. We want more time to spend it. And we want less stress at work. Now, I don't think there's a better motivator. Now, how are we going to do that? We're all going to get better every day. We're going to swallow our pride, and we're going to be humble, and we're going to realize that we're not that good. The better you get, the more you realize that you're not that great. Well, you want to strive to be great. It's one thing to have confidence, but I would say all of our infrastructure now has taken place so that there's a little bit more benefit. So we doubled in size last year with 8 less people than we were 3 years before that. Just a small metric. Our throughput per person went from 140 something thousand a person to 270 something last year. Average age of 55 is now 31. So not only are we doing better, but we're doing a bunch of people that supposedly don't know what the heck they're doing.
And that wouldn't stay around, that wouldn't be committed, that don't understand how to get it done, but they can if you invest in them, right?
Right. And so our biggest challenge, and I love it because Modern Machine Shop magazine did that video on us, and they did that article, and people from all over the country have come visit us. All but 3 have a reason why that won't apply to us. And I think that's awesome. Because it doesn't work, guys. Anybody who's listening to this who wants to do it, it don't work. Don't do it, right?
Don't do it.
But we're an open book for that because we feel the whole world would be a better place if and this is the future of business. Anybody who doesn't get on this bandwagon going to be gone.
I agree.
Okay? Because the new generation gets it. They're not looking to just survive. We've done a good job of helping them get over the survival part of it, and they're looking to do better things. Doing the right thing in the community. You think, well, yeah, but how much money do they make for their improvements? How much money do you give them, or how are they incentivized? And when they, we throw profits around at the end of the year, but we win as a team, we lose as a team.
That's right.
But people ask me that question all the time, and I say you'd have to talk to my customers. And my customer, what we found was the commonality of all human beings, that is opportunity. Everybody's looking for opportunity. We're not looking for a job.
No.
We're looking for opportunity. So what does opportunity kind of look like? Most people are going to not say, I want to sit over there in that corner and run that copier machine for the rest of my life and hand you the paper. Right? Now, we joke like that. But for the most part, that is not what people are looking for. So if you can provide an environment that they can track their progress, and see where they're going to go with their career, wow, you're investing in me. And it's not just a thank you, but you got to have a vehicle in place to help people do that. So
how do you guys do that?
through the academy.
Yep.
Right. So the academy and the improvement system. So the first 4, oh, that was another thing. So that, that increase in throughput per person.
Yeah.
We're doing it working 15% less than our competitors, because 45 minutes a day, we shut the entire shop down and we work on the business, every single person in the company. 45 minutes, right? That's another thing that people come and go, you're out of your mind, especially with pressures of getting deliveries out, right, and so forth. But so they have a voice. Everybody has a voice. We all have a voice. These improvement teams run their own metrics and so forth. So you have your improvement teams, which gives you a voice to basically make sure that you're talking about what sucks, what aggravates me, what do I think is stupid. Let's get it listed. Let's celebrate it. We found another screw up. We can make
it better.
Sucks.
We're getting better
Let's make it
today.
better, right?
Yep.
I mean, this is great. It's
Yep.
so from those teams, and then there's the academy. Now, the beauty of this academy, it's amazing, and we've put a few $100,000 into it, way more than I should have, because I thought, how hard can it be? It's like the coding. Well, yeah, code you,
So Westminster Academy being like kind of an online learning management system platform, really.
Correct.
Yep.
And there was a resource for it. Now it's like everything, we try to make it self-sufficient once we get it up and running. So to get it implemented into our organization, we had somebody actually overseeing it. But now Kylie has moved on. We've grabbed Kylie to do some other stuff. So,
and what's the point of the academy?
So the point of the academy is basically list what you need to do, identify the skills necessary to do your job in that specific area, and list it in some sort of a chronological order, make sure it's identified, and then have some sort of lessons. It's set up just like a college. So your first 2 years are your prerequisites, and it's you have to show proficiency in self. I just hired who is going to be, I hope he doesn't hear this, but he's potentially going to be the new COO.
Okay.
And he is cleaning machines his first week. He is a 3-month onboarding process that he is not allowed to add any value for 3 months. He has to walk a mile in another man's shoes. Those types of things earn the trust and respect of the people that are going to follow you. But everybody goes through that. Once you get past your proficiency in self, when we call that is you understand the mission, the vision, and the direction, and understanding core values, understanding how we do business, you qualify to learn something.
Right. So that understanding self, that emotional intelligence part, is part of the Westminster Academy that I'm going to go through when I start for 3 months, and we track that, right? So this is not. I mean, this is this isn't some like hopey, changey, bubbly stuff, right? I mean,
no, it's extremely structured.
Yep.
Very, very structured, and there's a chronology, right? So you learn your learning style. How many times you give somebody to somebody, and they say, "Well, he's stupid. He doesn't listen."
That's right.
Maybe he's not an auditory learner. Maybe he's, you know what I mean? I wish I learned this shit too when I was 30 years old.
Right.
But so it starts with this progression. So and all of it early on is to help you get, and then that gives me a read whether or not you can truly put yourself away and get humble and get passionate about understanding yourself so you can improve yourself.
Right.
Then now we can work.
Because if you can't get past that, then there's no role for you here at Westminster, right?
This is why. This is why we date.
This is table stakes. Yep.
We hire slow, fire fast.
Yep.
And I hate to say it, and I don't want to sound desensitized, but I owe it to my organization to not make exceptions.
Yep.
And it's that first 3 months. Now, we had a tremendous success with the young students. We had a horrible success rate with experienced people. You know why? Made exceptions.
No.
Oh, he's a $150,000 guy, whatever the heck it is, right? Oh, we got to get him into a role where he can add value right away, right? He's got all this experience. And so you start to make exceptions, and a year later we're going, man, it just didn't work. So since we've adopted this, we've had 4 people that are experienced, because we have a big influx now of experience that wants in now too, that we've been successful since we put them through that.
So having that baseline, what you need to work here, no exceptions. Everybody goes through. That's made a huge difference. Yeah,
but probably the biggest, because now we got the right person.
Right.
So now you're not afraid to spend money.
Right.
Because it is expensive to train. So once you get past your prerequisites, and then your prerequisites, there's quite a bit of knowledge in there too. There's a lot of safety, stuff like that. You now qualify to enroll in your concentration. You've moved around to a few different areas. And the beauty of this program is that your credentials stack as you go. So I come in as an entry level and I clean a machine. There's a lesson on cleaning machines. There's an expectation for doing preventative maintenance, right? Now, when Ari, I come to you and I'm going to work in the IT, is that what it's called, IT?
Sure.
Individual, technical.
Information technology, but that's
all
right.
that shit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's how much I know about it, right?
That's right.
So now I come to you, you look at my map. My map is it's based on an apprenticeship program. And you look at it and you say, oh, these are all the things he knows. Oh, this is what he don't know. I'm sounding like
that's
my
fine.
Education level. Boy, these are the things he doesn't know. So you know something? All right, now I'm just going to concentrate. How many experienced guys, they got the pressure to get stuff out the door? Oh, and now you're going to give this person? They don't know anything. All right, what is their learning? He now knows his learning style. He knows the disc profile, right? He looks at his map. Oh, you stacked all these credentials. I'm just going to. So this is why we move people all over our company, everywhere.
Correct.
And it's also why you never get there. So Hillary keeps adding stuff to the president map. So at one time, I was 85% qualified to do my job at my company. You know that I'm only at 56 now? I've gone backwards because all of a sudden she thinks I should give a better PowerPoint than you or whatever, right? So the academy, the other beauty of the academy is you have a coach and player. We don't believe in hierarchies. We try to have, make sure that we're both in it for the right reason. So the coach is the coach. The player is the player. The player is the scribe. The coach is the dictator. Okay, this is how you do it. And the scribe documents what that process is or how that's done, clears it with the coach, and then the coach goes, okay, so let it be said, so let it be done. This is why we have 3,000 lessons in Westminster Academy, and I have done 52.
Okay.
I have put 52 lessons into the academy. My company has contributed to the rest.
So created that sort of self-sustaining model where they keep building. And talk about how you connect the value of the Westminster Academy to what you're trying to do. Like, how critical is that to the whole overall objective of what you're trying to achieve at Westminster?
I don't think I'll retain, first of all. I think it's the main vehicle for the academy is, we want to make as much money as we can, right? And spend the least amount of time we can at work, right? I mean,
and reduce the amount of stress. Yeah.
So, we got to work on the stress part. But we have a clear understanding. So when you can chart your progress, there isn't a person in the world who doesn't get excited about that. And think about what you're giving to your person and your organization. You're giving them empowerment to realize and reach their greatest potential. This is my vehicle to fulfill my promise to my employee that we're going to help you do that. And so far, nobody's left. I mean, now, do we tie monetaries to it? Yes. I mean, you can progress as fast as you progress in your academy is how fast your pay can progress. Now, I haven't tied exact metrics to it because I don't want to freaking administer it if I can help it. Right. We just unrolled something really cool is management. Well, number one, we don't have any management, but two, you don't have in your review process, it's you.
Do self-reviews.
You tell me how you're doing, what you want to do. You show me your progress. I'm defining to you that it should be on time, on budget, and first time. Those are the three metrics. You can define them any way you want, right? And if you want to hide behind your metrics and call bullshit and pretend when you come to sit across the table, it's going to show. Right. So what we do is it's not a review, it's an individual growth plan. So we can provide that. Where are you aspiring to be? And so then it's self-documented. So we list the things that are important to the company, and then you track them. It's your business, right? You want to make more money, right? So
so empowering the individual to go as fast and as quickly and as far as they want to go, and then holding them accountable, right? Correct. Report back out where you're going, and then let's see where. And
why hold them accountable? Why do you think we should hold somebody accountable?
This is my show. You don't get to quiz me, Ray. Why do you get to hold them accountable?
Oh, you just asked that. All right, we'll go back and forth then. So they have to be holding up their end of the bargain. If our organization is to help you realize and reach your greatest potential, and you need to grow in order to help me improve my quality of life, we all need to make sure we're all holding up our end of the bargain.
That's right.
Right?
Gotta be rowing together.
It's not to the boss, to the man, or whatever the heck you want to call it. It's to each other.
That's right.
You got to hold up your end of the bargain to each other. This is the vehicle that I put in place to make sure they can look each other in the eye and say, I'm doing my part. Now, realize and reach your greatest potential. You have to realize that we all have different potentials. Ari's, you got a 32-ounce mug. I got a 4-ounce shot glass, right? So different people have different capacities of where they could go, but
also different times in their life too, right? Sometimes you want to be focused at work. Sometimes you want to be focused at home and grow in different areas. Yeah.
So, and then it's okay to change.
Yeah.
Right. So what most manufacturers go is I got to get Ari up to speed as fast as I can to
get him on that machine, because that machine's got to be running, because output's got to be up.
And then I'm going to pay you let's say to grab a number, $25 an hour, right? Shit, I can't move him to something he's never done before.
Right.
I can do that. You know why? Because it only takes 2 months for somebody to get proficient because their credentials stack.
Right. And training them around and moving them around, and you guys have actually been really great at doing that, right? Moving people around to different areas in the shop, to have it take on different roles, which I think is part of what helps people, number one, find a passion they didn't know that they had. Also gives them something different and interesting to look forward to, and allows them to control where they want to be. And I think those are some pretty exciting opportunities. And there's backup, right? So we had a conversation with someone else that talked about, well, if only John Doe is qualified to work on this one machine. If John's out, that machine's offline, and then what happens? Everything's stacking up. But when you guys have kind of all these utility players around the room who know all this different stuff, and what you need to know is documented and credentialed, it's pretty powerful stuff, Ray.
And the biggest reason for moving people around, one of the predominants is to understand your customers' needs, aggravations, right? Walk a mile in another man's shoes. We start from the bottom. When we work, we go backwards, right? So you're going to be a heck of a lot better, let's say 5-axis machine operator, if you understand if you first worked in the assembly area where they're putting your shit together.
Right.
So it's the move around is strategic early on, where you don't really have a choice. You have to walk in another man's shoes type thing before you can qualify, because everybody wants to be in the CNC and the super cool computer shit. And,
right.
You see, you're getting me jacked up now.
So, well, listen, we're gonna be running out of time. I know I got to get you somewhere. So I just want to ask you just a couple quick questions. Like, one thing is, in this kind of new model, right? How do you decide, or how does Westminster decide what to invest in beyond the people? Like, there's so many things in business, right? New machines, new facilities, when to grow, when to expand, when to hire, when to invest in new IT, when to buy new furniture for the cafeteria, whatever. All those decisions. How are decisions, those investment decisions made at Westminster?
Our EOS, right, from Traction.
Traction, yeah.
Right, will dictate the focus. Right, not necessarily where the money's going, but it'll dictate the focus. So we all have, and you can't address all of them, right? You guys are one of them, right? You guys are on the list of, okay, what is the next step? But there are other things that are in front of it that we feel roll up to our vision, that we address a little sooner. So we do budget a certain amount, and that budget is set. We try to budget about $250,000 a year for external training, and that sounds like a lot, but it goes really fast, right? The improvement teams make all those decisions. They have complete control over the spend on that. When it comes to equipment, it's what is pretty much the biggest need at the time. So there's no. If somebody's looking for a definite answer on that side of it, what you just got was a little bit short-winded. But if the EOS helped us,
the Traction and the EOS, and going through all that, what do you love best about the culture that you developed at Westminster?
Then I'm here hanging out with my good friend Ari, and I'm really happy and proud. I'm like a father to this thing now. I am so proud of what they have done and what they've built. My ego's way bigger than your facility, but I get unbelievable pride that it's not me. I get more pride out of knowing that it was. At night, Victoria. Did you ever meet Victoria, the young girl? I'm
not sure.
She's 20 years old. She bought a house, right? And before that, she bought a Harley, right? And she's got 0 college debt, right? We have a lot of Victorias.
Not a bad place to be.
One of my a third of our workforce is young women. We're very proud of that. Happened by accident because we hire the right person. Race, skill doesn't matter, right? You hire the right person with the right values, and then you plug them into the system. But we seem to be an employer of choice. That's the other thing. Who's got a waiting list?
Yeah.
Who's asking people? You have to shadow 3 times. You have to shadow 3 times, which is basically 3 days of your life. Because I want them, because this is not easy. This is like drinking from a fire hose. This thing is completely different than any other business model that in our region that they're seeing. So I'm exceptionally proud of that as well, that we have people that want to be part, and they don't want to be part of it because of Ray.
Right.
Some of them don't even know Ray. Because I'm no longer involved in the interview process. Because if I just like you, I'm going to honor you. And they're like, well, Ray, hang on a second.
There's a process behind this. That's great. Well, listen, I want to get to our rapid fire round of questions. And before I do that, we do have this other question, which I'm interested to see your answer. We like to ask this. We're out here. This podcast is going to be out and get in front of a lot of people. And I'd like to know, do you have a white whale customer? Is there a business partner, a customer, or someone you've been trying to get engaged with that you want Westminster to get in front of? That, man, you'd love for them to hear this podcast and make the phone ring and call Ray. Is there someone out there you want to reach?
This is supposed to be rapid fire.
No, that's before the rapid fire. We'll get to rapid fire.
No, I haven't I can identify what that customer looks like.
Sure, let's do that.
If you're passionate about growing people and you understand that human capital is the next generation, is the differentiator going forward in this marketplace in the world. If you're a company that you embrace those values, Jason Noy from OK Industries, right away when we met, we saw that commonality. We are going to do a lot of business together, right? So I'm not looking to do business with OK. I'm looking to do business with somebody that aligns with what we believe in, because I think together we can do some great things. Yeah. I don't have anybody specifically. I mean,
but people that align with those values, that Westminster would be the place that would be a great fit for them.
Right. If you're looking to hold me at arm's length and not embrace me, then I'm going to probably bypass you. We are a small company and we have a decent amount of demand, so we're being a little bit more choosy, because what we found is we have the happiest customers, and we make the most amount of money with the customers that share the same values. It's the same thing with our supply chain, right? I mean, we chose to do business with you because of the same thing. Is you're doing the right thing for the right reasons, and there's talkers and doers, you're a doer.
And that's what you got to do.
And I want to surround myself so I don't have to worry about those things, because you're going to take it to heart that my family matters.
That's right. Yeah, those and people that believe the same things do the best things together. Absolutely. And the one thing I didn't get to before we get to rapid fire, I don't know if you want to touch at all on EMA, which I know we're both deeply involved in. If there's anything you wanted to plug on the EMA front, or anything you're doing with the Plastics Academy. So the EMA, Eastern Advanced Manufacturing Alliance. Well done. Started for myself and 7 guys 10 years ago, when I started down the journey of getting involved in the community. And in order to solve that problem of workforce development, there's many, many different fronts of it. One of them, and we didn't touch on it all, was community. But we started, that back then was Quinnebog Valley Plastics Institute or something like that. So we had a program, a 2-year associate's program at QV. During the first crash, that went away very quickly. And then it evolved. What I saw from I was driven to grow that, because when I walked to academia with my 15 employees, they said, why don't you leave your card at the door or whatever? Nobody would listen. So I got short man syndrome. I went and I got a bunch of people that their voice mattered, and I got us together on a crusade, a common cause for the good of everyone. And that's how we came together. From that, we said, wow, we're living a lot of the same dreams/nightmares. We should get together more. And so then we expanded it. We were just with QV. We expanded it to 3 Rivers, and now we're including Middlesex in the middle of the state. It's the predominant mantra or marching orders for EMA is really that topic of workforce development. Presently. It could be something completely different 3 years from now. But it is, I mean, now EMA's up to 76 members, right. Which is a big growth from the 7 or 6, 7, 8 we started with. And I agree, workforce development, which is just so absolutely critical. I mean, it dovetails to me so nicely with what you're doing at Westminster, because talent development and the availability of talent is the battleground we need to win in the future. We need to win it in our companies, and we need to win it in our community. And so it's awesome that you're out there doing that with EMA and building. And I don't even know how many people, I didn't know how big kind of plastics was in Connecticut. It's big. And it's awesome to be building up a platform for that. So that's great. And now we're on to rapid fire. So here we go. Hot takes on these questions. So rapid fire for you, Ray. Red Sox or Yankees?
Red Sox.
Yes. Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
Don't drink coffee.
When you go away, staycation or exotic destination?
Something with a shit ton of activity.
There we go. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Sports car or SUV?
Both. I can afford it.
If you could do anything other than what you're doing today, Ray, what would you do?
I'm going to be a grandfather sooner or later. So I would say the next step in my life is to have my kids take a restraining order out of me.
What's your favorite business book?
My that's so. Shift Your Brilliance by Simon Bailey is definitely up there, and the other one is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. I've talked to you about that one before as well. I would say that's another hot topic. Raving Fans is up there. I've read so many.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say Shift Your Brilliance. It helps you to understand yourself first. And you got to look in the rearview mirror before you can pass.
Once you can pass. What's one thing that you learned early, excuse me, early in your career or early in your life that you think helped propel you to the success that you've had?
5 years old, my father told me to touch the electric fence on purpose, and I screamed and cried. And in his own, I don't know what book he read this from, but he's like, you're going to learn more, son, from the bad things that go wrong in your life. And he had a bunch of profanity with it, right? I'm 5 years old. And he was so right that you learn way more. I never forgot that electric fence. Never. I get, right now you can feel it coming up, right? And it didn't really hurt, but it sure as heck woke me up. So I would say that lesson from my father that I probably didn't realize until I was 30, right? But being 5 years, what are you doing having your kid touch an electric fence?
So let's reverse that around and say, what's one thing that you learned later in your career, late in your life, that you wish you could go back and talk to young Ray that you wish he'd listened to? That electric fence when my buddy passing away,
I think that there was a 5-year period. Thank God it happened when it happened, but there was a 5-year period where my family, my children, being the best husband and spouse and father, wasn't even on my radar. It was Ray. And yeah, I would go back and say, I would hope that my buddy wouldn't have to die before I figured it out. Right?
Before you figured that out. That's awesome. Well, listen, if people wanted to connect with you, Ray, and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to find you?
What's your email address? Our Coombs at westminstertool.com. Email would be the best way to get a hold of me.
Perfect.
Or probably Kylie.
Kylie. All right.
Kylie Carbone is the backbone.
The backbone of the Westminster Tool, Carbone at westminstertool.com. So we'll have your email and Kylie's email in the show notes and see how that goes. So we'd like to close on this question, which is, given everything we've talked about today, and it's been a lot, if one of the listeners is out there and you wanted to give them the one thing Ray thinks, the one most important thing that they could take away from this hour that we spent together, the one big value point, what do you think that would be?
Probably curiosity. Most people, when they hear this story's been told plenty of times, and put your doubt away and come see it. We're an open book. We'll show it to anybody. We'll give you, under the right circumstances, we'll give you a solid 3 hours. Grateful Friday is the most inspiring tour you're going to have. And the other thing is, I don't no longer give them. We allow people just to go on the floor and just get them to tell the story. But we are an open book. We got a little bit of a backlog on that side because we've gotten a lot of press over it. But we are, I believe that this is a differentiator, and I need more people that think like Ari, because it's the other Ari that we're going to do great things together. Right. We're not going to do it alone.
That's awesome. So for me, I sometimes take the liberty of doing two. And so today's going to be one of those days, because I think two things you said really drove and hit home with me. I think one thing is you can't learn unless you're thinking curiosity. You can't learn when it's looking out the window and it's you, and trying to make someone listen to me. I can't learn. I can only learn from a place of curiosity and questioning. And I think there's so many good things could be done if people took a curious approach to things instead of a demanding that someone else hear them. I think the world would be a better place. And I think businesses would do a lot better. And then the other thing, which has always inspired me and I love about Westminster and what you've driven there, is the willingness to invest in people and understanding that, you know, we need to invest in people. And sure, people will tell you, well, they could leave, they could go somewhere else. That investment's portable. But I think if we invest in people the right way and we help them to drive to their passions and what they want to do, not only will they not leave, but they'll stay and we'll do great things together. And I think if people could take that and put that in their life, it'd be a really great place to be. So thanks so much, Ray.
I got one more thing.
Oh, please go ahead.
Courage.
Courage.
Everybody who's going to listen to this, you know what you have to do. I don't care if it's exercise, eating habit, right? Everybody, when I speak at conferences, I say, raise your hand. Who here exercises every day? And there's like 5 of us, right? Who here wants to exercise every day? Every hand goes up. We all know what we have to do. It's getting the courage to do it. And the example that I give is I had 3 people, 2 20-year vets, who in my opinion were some of the best, and an apprentice running an area. And that same area, that same operation, is run by a young lady, now part-time. It used to be our biggest bottleneck. She's working part-time. She works in that area part-time, right? Eliminated the bottleneck. And when I interviewed her, she kept saying, she said, Mr. Coombs, you keep saying the word end milled. Can you tell me what that is? And I went, oh, Jesus Christmas. What am I going to do with this kid? Don't ever think that having the courage to make the change, you can't afford not to do it. You can't afford not to do it. Don't say you can't afford to do it. You can't afford not to do it. And if you give anybody in the world an opportunity to blossom, you know, you can do these things. And it's usually courage. That's the main word I have to say to every business owner or person in management. You know what has to be done.
Have the courage to take the action. Don't
wait until the next nervous breakdown to do it.
Have the courage to take the action, to do the thing you need to do. The harder that it seems to do, probably the more likely it is that you need to do it.
Right. That's how I've lost 1 pound this year.
There you go. Ray, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. It's been a unique time. I'm really grateful for you to take the hour to do it, and thanks a lot.
Great.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by IT Direct.
As always, thanks so much for tuning in. I definitely want your feedback and hope you subscribe. But what I want the most is to build a community where we learn and grow with each other. I hope you're getting a lot of value out of the time we're spending together. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time.